Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about the fourth commandment of egoless programming. So let's get into it. So the fourth one is don't rewrite code without consultation. And that is a very, very good rule to follow. Now, the reason why you should never rewrite code ever without consulting other coworkers or things like that is for pretty much the same reason I've told you many times before why you should never ever add a library, no matter how good it is, to a code base without talking it through with your other coworkers, and not just like a message in Slack or a message in your whatever instant system, your instant messaging system or email or whatever you're using. Not that, like really showcase the idea and the intent and the value that this brings. The reason is very simple. When you rewrite something, what you're in essence doing is that you stand in front of this code and you go, this is incomprehensible to me, or this is ugly, this is something that I don't really enjoy dealing with. But I have an idea, and my idea is better than this. I can rewrite this and the functionality will still probably be sort of the same. It may not be, but yeah, let's just assume that it's just a refactor or something like that. And what I will do is that I will rewrite this to something that makes sense to me. And then you do. And then the next programmer comes along and goes, this is incomprehensible to me. I should rewrite this, and then the whole spiral starts over again. Because I hope you can understand this. Legacy code or like bad software, something that you want to rewrite, may be very comprehensible to somebody else. And really what you're saying when you rewrite code is that this code is bad, but it's working. I can rewrite it in a way that makes it work better and is more comprehensible to me. And if you don't stop and think about the fact that somebody else may not find your idea as crystal clear as you find it, well then you may actually just recreate the problem again in a different format. And that is the essence, I will argue, in this commandment. And I think you should really always have this with you. I myself, I always do this. I never ever change anything about any work process at work whatsoever without asking that question. Is this something where I need to just make a small proof of concept or showcase something or so forth to just get some feedback from the other developers? One part of it is that I care about the productivity of all my coworkers. Because I know that if I write something that is very sophisticated and they don't understand how it works, then I'm going to have to deal with any issues related to that code every single time. I can't fork that job off on somebody else even when I really need to. I always have to deal with it. Or it might be that they add more problems on top. I don't know how ugly and how many times I've seen this happen. Things like, let's take front-end, gulp tasks and different build pipelines and so forth can get because people just like add their own custom builder step of that does something magical. Take Webpack configurations, all this mess that can come from just having a very sophisticated solution or something like that, where people don't really know how all of this work, but they need to solve the problem and they don't have anybody to ask. So they kind of work out how all this works and then they shim in some solution and then it kind of snowballs on from there. And the more stuff that you have, the more likely this is to happen. And that is the essence of what at least from my perspective, what sustainable software is about. You need to create a solution that is comprehensible to other people, because if you don't, you will run into this problem. So that's one part of it. The other part is that if I'm going to rewrite something, that is a very dangerous step, because I might not know all the things about this solution. I'd like to say that it's very, very much like pulling a thread on a sweater. If you're lucky, you can just pull it out and it was just a loose thread. If you're unlucky, you're going to undo the whole sweater, because that thread is tied into a bunch of other threads, and then you have to tug on all of those, and then you have to tug on some more, and all of a sudden you have just a big ball of yarn in your hand. And when it comes to software development, this is definitely the case. You might be looking at like a small piece of a feature that you want to rewrite. And you might find that if you try to rewrite that, it's going to be tied into a bunch of other work that you need to reshuffle. And then you finally realize that, wow, this was actually probably the best way of solving this. So my assumption that this was just an incompetent programmer wasn't correct. It was actually someone who was in a similar situation that I'm in now, where I can't fix this, so I just have to make the best of the situation. So what I want you to take away from this is that you should definitely always consult with your coworkers before you rewrite something. One part is because you might just recreate the problem again. You might just think for yourself that this is really ugly code. Of course, everybody agrees with me. Rewrite it and create the same problem that you had for your next coworker. And without checking in with anybody, you don't really know if you're helping or you're creating problems. Honestly, you don't really know until you check. The second part is, you might not understand how the feature actually works. Whenever you want to pull out a piece of code, because all the code is connected, it is like pulling on a thread. If you're lucky, you can just pull out the thread and then replace it with whatever you want. But if you're unlucky, this thing is actually tied into a bunch of other stuff, and you always risk breaking something whenever you change any code. There's always a risk that you cause regressions and other problems. And you need to have a discussion with other coworkers to see if there are any risks with doing this refactor that you're looking to do. Because if you don't, you might actually create a lot more work than the value of the refactor would ever produce. Have a great day.